How are you guys doing? Today is Friday, March 25th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to preview the Sweet 16 round for the 2022 Women's March Madness bracket, as we are going to be seeing 4 straight days of college basketball, as this is the second weekend of the tournament. The Sweet 16 will be played today and tomorrow, and the Elite 8 will be played on Sunday and Monday, as the women's tournament is a day behind the men's. The men's bracket is actually halfway through its Sweet 16, and tomorrow I'm going to give a preview for the men's Elite 8. But for the Sweet 16, I'm actually going to preview and give some quick insight as to how all of these teams got here and were able to make it this far. But first, taking a look at the matchups as they go on, they're looking at the teams that are left within this NCAA tournament. There are all 4 1 seeds that are still left. So with that said, I'm actually going to start with the defending champs that are still left. The top seed Stanford Cardinals are going to face off against the 4 seed Maryland Terrapins. Taking a look first at how Stanford was able to make it into this particular round, they would go on to win their very first matchup versus 16 seed Montana State. They won this game by 41. This came after they outscored Montana State 20-0 in the very first half. Once Stanford was able to win this game, they were led in scoring by their guard off the bench, Hannah Jump. In Stanford's second round matchup, they would face off against 8 seed Kansas, and in this Kansas matchup, they would end up beating Kansas by 26. They would win this matchup 91-65. They were led in scoring this game by Lexi Hull. Lexi Hull would finish with 36 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 steals. I'm looking at who Stanford is going to be facing off against today. They're going to be facing off against 4 seed Maryland after Stanford won those matchups in Stanford. 4 seed Maryland won both of their matchups in their stadium in College Park, Maryland, to make it to this round. In their first matchup, Maryland would face off against they faced in their first matchup against 13 seed Delaware. Against 13 seed Delaware, they would end up winning that matchup by 31 points. This matchup, they were led in scoring by Ashley Owusu, as she had 24 points and 6 rebounds. Their other guard, Diamond Miller, would finish with 31 points herself. Once Maryland made it to the second round of this tournament, they would end up beating 12 seed Florida Gulf Coast, once again on their home court. They won this matchup by 24 points. In this matchup, they were led in scoring by their starting guard, Diamond Miller. She had 24 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 steals. Their starting forward, Angel Reese, had 21 points and 9 rebounds. And then their guard, Ashley Owusu, had 20 points yet again. So this is going to be the very first matchup that people are going to be looking forward to. This particular matchup in itself is going to be at 9:30 today. It'll be among the second batch of games being played today, and because they are the 1 seed this is going to be the 1 seed matchup that's going to be played during this time. It's going to be the game that's going to be on ESPN today. I'm taking a look at the other matchup in the Spokane, Washington region bracket for the Sweet 16. The 2nd seed Texas Longhorns are going to face off against 6 seed Ohio State. As a matter of fact, it's going to be the first game in Spokane today. Looking at how 2 seed Texas was able to make it here, once they made it out of the Big 12, they won their first matchup against 15 seed Fairfield. They would go on to win this matchup after outscoring Fairfield by 5 in the first quarter, and then by 16 in the second, by more than 20 in the first half. 2nd seed Texas would be led in scoring by their forward off the bench, Aaliyah Moore, as she had 18 points and 10 rebounds. Once Texas made it to the second round, they would face off against 7 seed Utah, once again on Texas's home court. Texas would end up beating Utah 78-56. They won by 22 after they were led in scoring by their forward off the bench, Aaliyah Moore. She had 21 points and 5 rebounds. And then taking a look at their opponent, the 6 seed Ohio State Buckeyes, coming out of the or as Ohio State would come out of the Big Ten, they would face off in their first matchup of the Spokane region against 11 seed Missouri State. This matchup would be in Baton Rouge. In this matchup, they beat Missouri State by 7 as they were led in scoring this game by their starting guard, J.C. Shelton. Once they made it to the second round, they would face off against LSU on LSU's home court, and they would beat LSU by 15 after they outscored LSU by 7 in the first quarter and then by an additional 12 in the third quarter. 6-seed Ohio State was led in scoring by their starting guard, J.C. Shelton and Sheldon in round 2, as she had 23 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 steals as she played all 40 of the minutes. So that is how Ohio State would make it all the way to this round, where they would face off against top seed or against 2-seed Texas. And the winner of these two matchups between Stanford and Maryland and Texas and Ohio State today will go on to the Elite Eight, as that matchup will be played in Spokane on Sunday. Taking a look at who they're going to be possibly playing in the Elite Eight, right across the way at the other Sweet 16 matchups that are going to be playing today. The first game that's going to be on ESPN today will be between 1-seed South Carolina and 5-seed North Carolina out of the Greensboro region. 1-seed South Carolina was able to make it all the way to this round, as they would go on to beat 16-seed Howard in the very first round. They won this matchup by 58 points after outscoring Howard 44-4 in the first half. South Carolina was led in scoring this game by their starting forward, Aaliyah Boston, who had 10 points and 12 rebounds. Also, their forward off the bench, Sanaya Fegan, finished with 10 points and 7 rebounds herself. Once South Carolina made it to the second round, of course, both of these games they played on their home court. They would beat 8-seed Miami by 16. They won 49-33 after outscoring Miami 23-10 in the first half. The Gamecocks were led in scoring this game by their center off the bench, Camila Cardozo. With this win, first seed South Carolina was able to make it into this round of the tournament. And looking at their opponent, the 5-seed North Carolina Tar Heels were able to make it to this round. After coming out of the ACC, they would win their first matchup against 12-seed Stephen F. Austin by 13 points. In this matchup, in which they would play in Tucson, Arizona, they would outscore Stephen F. Austin by 15 in the fourth quarter to overcome their 2-point deficit. They were led in scoring by their starting guard, Deja Kelly, who finished with 28 points and about 5 rebounds. In North Carolina's second round matchup, they would beat 4-seed Arizona on Arizona's home court. They won by 18 points after they outscored Arizona by a combined 11 points in the first half, and then by 9 in the third, by 20 in the first 3 quarters. They would be led in scoring by their starting guard, Kennedy Todd Williams, as she finished with 19 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals. Additionally, Alyssa Ustby would finish with 12 points, 12 rebounds, 4 steals, and a couple of blocks, as she was the only Tar Heel that played all 40 minutes. So, of course, North Carolina will be facing off against South Carolina in Greensboro. That will actually be the first matchup in the Greensboro region today, and because it features the 1 seed out of the 4 teams playing at 7 o'clock, it will be the ESPN primetime game. Looking at the second game in the Greensboro region, it will be a matchup on ESPN2 at 9:30 tonight between 3-seed Iowa State and 10-seed Creighton. 3-seed Iowa State would make it into this round after beating 14-seed UT Arlington by 7 in the very first round. In this first round, they would go on to outscore UT Arlington by 9 in the third quarter, by 13 in the second half. The Cyclones were led in scoring this game by their starting guard, Ashley Jones. She had 36 points and 15 rebounds. Additionally, their starting guard, Emily Ryan, had 20 points and 6 assists. Once Iowa State would make it to the second round, they would go on to defeat the 6-seed Georgia Lady Bulldogs. They would win this game by 23 points, as the Cyclones would be led in scoring by their starting guard, Lexi Donarski. She had 20 points, And then Ashley Jones had 12 points and 10 rebounds for the day. So that is how Iowa State would make it through, as they won both of their games on their home court. And then looking at their opponents, the 10 seed Creighton Blue Jays would go on to make it to this round. They would go on to beat the 7 seed Colorado Buffaloes in the first round. They won by 10 after they outscored Colorado by 9 in the second quarter. They were led in scoring by their guard off the bench, Morgan Maley, who had 20 points and 8 rebounds. Once Creighton would make it to the second round, they would go on to beat 2 seed Iowa and kind of upset a lot of people's brackets, as they would be led in scoring by their starting guard for the day, Lauren Jensen. She had 19 points and 7 rebounds. Their starting forward, Emma Ronziek, finished with 13 points and 10 rebounds, as well as 2 blocks to make it to this round as well. The winner of Creighton and Iowa State will face off against the winner of South Carolina and North Carolina in the Elite Eight game, and that game will be played on Sunday. But that is what the Greensboro region is looking like. Those will be the 4 matchups that are going to be taking place today. And now taking a look at the games in this bracket that are going to be taking place tomorrow. Looking at the very first matchup that's going to be taking place, it will feature the 1 and 5 seed in the Bridgeport region in Connecticut, as the 1 seed North Carolina State Wolfpack will face off against the 5 seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish out of the ACC. 1 seed North Carolina State would make it to this round after beating 16 seed Longwood by 28 in the very first round. In this first round, the Wolfpack would be led in scoring by their starting guard, Reina Perez, as she had 16 points on the day. Once North Carolina State made it to the second round, they would end up beating 9 seed Kansas State. They won this matchup by 32 after they outscored Kansas State by 16 in the first half, as well as they outscored them by 16 in the second half as well. The top seed Wolfpack were led in scoring by their starting forward, Kayla Jones, in the second matchup. So that is how North Carolina State would make it to this round. And looking at their opponents, the 5 seed Notre Dame Fighting Irish would make it to this round. In their first matchup, they would beat 5 seed UMass, as this particular matchup was in Oklahoma. It was in Norman, Oklahoma. In this matchup versus UMass, they beat the Minute Women by 11, as they were able to outscore them by 15 in the first quarter. They were led in scoring by their starting forward, Maddie Westbeld, as she had 19 points and 5 rebounds. Additionally, their starting guard, Olivia Miles, had a triple-double. She finished with 12 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists as well in 35 minutes. And then once Notre Dame would make it to the second round of this tournament, they would go on to face off against the 4 seed Oklahoma Sooners on Oklahoma's home court, and they would embarrass Oklahoma, winning by 44 points. They outscored Oklahoma by 23 in the first quarter, by 12 in the second, so they outscored them by 35 in the first half. They were going to outscore Oklahoma by 9 in the second half, as they outscored the Sooners in every quarter. The Fighting Irish were led in scoring by their starting guard, Dara Mabry. She finished with 29 points and 6 rebounds in 36 minutes. Their starting guard, Sanaya Citron, finished with 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 steals. Their starting forward, Maya Dodson, had 20 points and a couple of steals and 3 blocks. And with this win, that's how Notre Dame would make it here. So that will be the very first matchup. And the winner of this will face off against the winner between 2 seed UConn and 3 seed Indiana. Looking at how 2 seed UConn would make it here, this would be the second matchup of the day, actually, of the Sweet 16. 2nd seed UConn would win their 2 first matchups in Connecticut on their home court. Their very first matchup would be against the 15th seed Mercer Bears, as UConn won this game by 45 points. They outscored Mercer by 8 in the first quarter and by 12 in the second, outscoring them by 20 in the first half. They would outscore Mercer 20-0 in the third quarter before they outscored Mercer by 25 in the second half. The 2nd seed Huskies were led in scoring by their starting guard, Kristen Williams, as she had 13 points and 5 rebounds. Their forward off the bench, Dorka Juhas, finished with 10 points and 10 rebounds, so that's how UConn would make it to the second round. And in the second round, they will go on to beat 7 seed UCF by 5, as they would go on to outscore the Knights by 9 in the second quarter and then by 5 in the third, outscoring them by 14 points in the middle 2 quarters. The second seed Huskies were led in scoring by their starting guard, Ozzie Fudd. She finished with 16 points, 3 steals, and a couple of blocks in 38 minutes. She shot 4 for 13 from the field. All of her makes came from 3. She was 4 for 10 from 3. So that is, of course, how UConn would make it here. And then, of course, looking at UConn's opponents for the day, the Indiana Hoosiers, who come into this matchup as a 3 seed, would win both of their games in Bloomington, Indiana. They won their first game against 14 seed Charlotte. They won that particular matchup 85-51. They won by 34 points. In this matchup, they would outscore Charlotte by 18 in the first half, and then they outscored them by 16 in the second half. The 3 seed Hoosiers were led in scoring by their starting forward, Mackenzie Holmes. She finished with 19 points and 8 rebounds. And in Indiana's second particular matchup of the tournament, they would face off at home against the 11 seed Princeton Tigers, where Indiana would just scrape by with a 1-point win after they outscored Princeton by 10 in the second quarter. The 3 seed Hoosiers were led in scoring by their starting guard, Grace Berger, as she finished with 15 points and 7 rebounds to get Indiana to the Sweet 16 round. That matchup, we'll see who faces off against the winner between North Carolina State and Notre Dame, as that will be the second matchup of the day tomorrow, and the winners of these matchups will go to the Elite Eight, where that game will be played on Monday. And taking a look at the 2 Sweet 16 matchups that are going to be taking place in Wichita in order, jumping to the last number 1 seed that is going to be playing out in Louisville, the Louisville Cardinals, or I guess this match is going to be played in Wichita, Kansas. The Louisville Cardinals will host the 14 seed Tennessee Lady Volunteers. The 1 seed Louisville Cardinals would make it to the Sweet 16 after first beating 16 seed Albany in the first round. They beat the Great Danes by 32 points after they outscored Albany by 12 in the first quarter, 16 in the second, so they were up by 28 in the first half. And they would go on to be led in scoring by their starting guard, Haley Van Lith. She finished with 20 points and 3 steals in 24 minutes. Once Louisville made it to the second round, once again on their home court, they would end up beating Gonzaga by 9. As they won it 68-59, as they outscored Gonzaga by 8 in the second half, as they would go on to finish their season undefeated at home. The top seed Cardinals would be led in scoring by their starting guard, Haley Van Lith, again, as she had 21 points and 6 rebounds. Their starting forward, Emily Engstler, finished with 12 points, 11 rebounds, 5 steals, and a couple of blocks. And with this win, that is how Louisville made it into this round. Looking now at their opponents, the 4 seed Lady Volunteers made it all the way to the Sweet 16. Looking at how they got through their first weekend, they would beat 13 seed Buffalo by 13 in the first round, as they would go on to win this game by 13 after outscoring Buffalo by 11 points in the second half. The Lady Volunteers were led in scoring by their starting guard, Ray Burrell, with 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 steals in her first game. Their starting forward, Alexis Dye, finished with 18 points and 11 rebounds. Their starting center, Tamari Key, finished with 16 points and 11 rebounds herself. Once Tennessee made it to the second round of the Wichita Red Region, they would face off against 12 seed Belmont. They would beat 12 seed Belmont by 3 points after outscoring Belmont by 12 points in the first half. The 4 seed Lady Volunteers were led in scoring by their starting forward, Alexis Dye. She finished with 20 points and 11 rebounds in 30 minutes. And that is how Tennessee would go on to make it into the Sweet 16 round of this tournament. That'll be the very first matchup taking place in Wichita, and after that, the last matchup of the Sweet 16 will be in Wichita, as the 3 seed Michigan Wolverines will face off against the 10 seed South Dakota Coyotes. 3 seed Michigan made it into this round after they would go on to win their first round matchup against 14 seed American. They won this matchup by 35 points after they outscored American by 23 in the second quarter alone. The third seed Wolverines would be led in scoring this game by their starting forward Naz Hillman. She finished with 24 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 steals in 25 minutes, shooting 11 for 14 from the field. In their second matchup on their home court, they would go on to beat 11 seed Villanova by 15. They won 64-49 to ensure that they would be undefeated at home this season. They won by 15 after they outscored the Wildcats by 6 in the second, 5 in the third, and then by 7 in the fourth, as they would go on to outscore the Wildcats by 18 in the quarters outside the first. And on the winning side of this matchup, the Wolverines were led in scoring by their starting forward, Naz Hillman. She finished with 27 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 steals in 39 minutes. She shot 12 for 16 from the field. And with this, and also off the bench, their guard, Leah Brown, finished with 20 points, 5 rebounds, and a couple of steals. On the other end of this matchup, the 10 seed South Dakota Coyotes would make it to the Sweet 16 round. They won their very first matchup against 7 seed Ole Miss, as this particular matchup was in Waco, Texas. They would go on to beat 7 seed Ole Miss 75-61. They won by 14 after they outscored Ole Miss by 9 in the first half. The Coyotes would go on to be led in scoring by their starting center Hannah Shervin and their starting guard Chloe Lamb, as they each finished with 20 points. In South Dakota's second round matchup, they would face off against the 2nd seed Baylor Bears on Baylor's home court. They would beat the 2 seed Bears 61-47. They won by 14 after outscoring Baylor 16-4 in the first quarter. On the winning end, the 10 seed Coyotes were led in scoring by their starting center Hannah Shervin. She finished with 16 points and 4 steals in 34 minutes. She shot 6 for 14 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and 2 for 4 from the foul line to make it to this round. And once South Dakota will face off against 3 seed Michigan at 6:30 tomorrow, we will have the 8 teams that will advance to the Elite 8. And once that matchup is played tomorrow, I will do a preview on Sunday for the Elite 8 matchups. But until then, I want to thank everyone once again for listening to this piece. I want to thank the ESPN and NCAA websites for giving me all the facts and figures. Without them, I wouldn't be able to do this. And I want to thank everyone once again. I hope all is well. And once all of tomorrow and Sundays, once all of today and tomorrow's exhibitions are done, I will come back on Sunday for a preview of the Elite 8 round of this matchup. And until then, I want to thank everyone once again, and I'll catch you with another piece tomorrow. And thanks for listening. Peace out.